Hello my artist friends, and welcome back to Studio 37. For this unit of study, we are going to be looking into contemporary photography, focusing primarily on the art of contemporary narrative photographer. Of course, narrative photography would be photography that tells a story. Terry Borders. Terry Borders is alive and well and living in Indianapolis, so a contemporary artist not too far away. Also, we're going to spend a couple minutes looking at the artwork of Muniz, or the Brazilian-born artist who uses material in a non-traditional way to create rather unique and interesting photographs. But first, we're going to look at Marcel Duchamp and Dadaism, because that is kind of the origin of developing the use of found objects or ready-mades, or repurposing everyday material to create art, which is something that both Terry Borders and Muniz do. Without further ado, I'm going to send it over to my computer to examine the work of these three men. As stated in the introduction, this lesson we will be examining the work of contemporary narrative photographer Terry Borders in his series Bent Objects. Contemporary, of course, means artists making art right now. Narrative is art that tells a story, and photography is the medium in which Mr. Borders works. Before we move on, there are a few more vocabulary words I want to go over. A found object is a natural or man-made object or a fragment of an object that is found or sometimes bought by an artist and kept because of some intrinsic interest that the artist sees in it. A ready-made is a term used by the French artist Marcel Duchamp to describe the works of art made from manufactured objects. It has since often been applied to more generally to artworks by other artists made in this way. Of course, we already said a narrative is art that tells a story, and contemporary is art being made right now. But we're going to go back about 100 years to Dada, which Dada was an art movement formed during the First World War. It was formed in Zurich, but it traveled all over the world, and it was a negative reaction to the horrors and folly of war. The art, poetry, and performance produced by Dada artists is often satirical and nonsensical in nature, made to offend, upset, and make people question the nature of things. A perfect example of this is Marcel Duchamp's ready-made entitled Fountain. This was made in 1917. If you notice, the picture on the left is a picture of a urinal turned 90 degrees to be lying on its back, and I will let this video explain it further.
In 1917, a urinal changed the course of art history. For the price of $1, the Society of Independent Artists declared that any artist can become a member. Any member can pay $5 to enter their work into the Independence exhibition. It was the largest show of modern art in America, and it was meant to be a forward-looking stand against what they perceived to be a conservative and stifling attitude of the National Academy. Marcel Duchamp entered a work into the show, and as you can probably guess, it was a urinal. It wasn't a urinal that he sculpted from porcelain or baked in a kiln. It was a perfectly made, mass-produced, ordinary urinal that Duchamp bought in a store. He took the work, placed it on its back, and signed and dated the work Armut 1917. He named his work Fountain. In other words, Duchamp appropriated an existing object. He rendered it non-functional and positioned it as a work of art. He called this new form of art making ready-mades. So why did he sign his work with the pseudonym Armut? One part of the answer may be that Duchamp was actually the director of the society, and he was a member of the organization committee. But another part was that Duchamp also loved to play with words. The name Mutt may be a play on the word Mott, which is the name of the store where Duchamp bought the urinal, but it's also said it's referencing the popular comic Mutt and Jeff. In the comic, Mutt is a dim-witted, greedy character who's always coming up with get-rich-quick schemes, and Jeff was his gullible sidekick who is an inmate of a mental asylum. So this can be Duchamp's way of poking fun at the pompous art world, and in fact it's been suggested that R stands for Richard, which in French is a colloquialism for money bags. So when the urinal arrived at the exhibition hall, Duchamp's co-directors actually refused to show a fountain despite having the $6 attached, which is required to enter the show. The unjuried show accepted all 2,125 works of 1,235 artists, all except the work of R. Mutt. Many felt that the work was insulting, some thought it was a joke, and in fact it disappeared. A possible remake was photographed a few days later, but that too has disappeared. Duchamp, of course, was quick to point out that the liberal and progressive art society was failing at what they originally set out to do. The Richard Mutt case, which was published in a magazine through Duchamp's proxy, Beatrice Wood, read, "Whether Mr. Mutt with his own hands made the fountain or not has no importance. He chose it. He took an ordinary article of life, placed it so that its useful significance disappeared under the new title and point of view, created a new thought for that object. The fountain forces the viewer to leave old questions of art behind. No longer are we concerned with the aesthetic questions of craft, medium, and taste. Arise are new questions that are ontological, epistemological, and institutional, questions that are still debated to this day."
The next artist I want to look at is Brazilian-born, currently working in New York, an artist by the name of Vic Muniz. You 8th graders might remember Vic Muniz from last year. He was a photographer and a mixed media artist. Vic Muniz is best known for repurposing everyday materials for intricate and heavily layered recreations of great works from art history. Muniz works in a range of media from trash to peanut butter and jelly, the latter used to recreate Andy Warhol's famous double Mona Lisa that was in turn an appropriation of Da Vinci's original. Layered appropriation is a consistent theme in Muniz's work. In 2008, he undertook a large-scale project in Brazil, photographing trash pickers as figures from emblematic paintings such as Jacques-Louis David's Death of Moreau, and then recreating these photographs in large-scale arrangements of trash. The project was documented in the 2010 film Wasteland in an attempt to raise awareness for urban poverty. And if you guys get a chance, I highly recommend taking the opportunity to watch Wasteland. That is one of the 2 films I show in my art room over the 6 years you have art. So you 7th graders will be missing that, and hopefully you get a chance to catch it somewhere on the internet. It is a phenomenal work of art in and of itself. Now let's examine the work of Vic Muniz. On the left, you see the peanut butter and jelly Mona Lisa referenced in the description. On the right, you see a portrait of Jackson Pollock working on his painting. Of course, that portrait is composed of chocolate. So there he is using food, something that he has in common with the next artist that we're looking at. So far we've looked at 3 artists that all use non-traditional art materials in non-traditional ways. The photograph on the left is called Pictures of Sugar. In this work, Vic Muniz made portraits of the children of cane sugar plantation workers using white sugar on black paper. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a photograph of sugar on paper. On the right, you see a picture of a Union soldier from the Civil War made out of toy soldiers. So again, using non-traditional material to make rather remarkable work. The last 2 pieces I want to show you from Vic Muniz come from that series, Pictures of Garbage, referenced in the introduction of Vic Muniz. These are both super large works of art made out of garbage. These are garbage harvested from the world's largest landfill, and these are photographs of the people that work in that landfill, pulling out the plastic and recyclable material to save more room for the landfill, and that is their job, to dig through garbage to find the plastic that was thrown away. Again, if you want more information about this remarkable work and the efforts of Vic Muniz to raise awareness about global poverty, please take the opportunity and watch the film Wasteland. The last artist that I want to discuss today, as well as the artist that your project is based on, is an artist by the name of Terry Borders. Terry Borders made a series called Bent Objects. This is a series of photographs taken by contemporary artist Terry Borders, in which he uses everyday food objects in addition to wire and a setting to create an oftentimes very hysterical narrative. And like I said, I hope you enjoy this work as much as I do. So on the left you see a yoga studio attended by pretzels. On the right you see the bitter effects of time on a grape. Moving on. These two are rather violent depictions of someone meeting a rather violent end, whether that be a pasta spoon or a baby pickle. If you notice the picture on the left, the egg is holding a note that says "to mother," and I think you might be able to tell what happened to mother. And quite possibly my favorite work by Terry Borders is the one on the right, where the fortune cookie is reading the fortune. Now is the time to make new friends, which that one spoke to me and made me want to teach a lesson about this artist. I hope you see the humor in that as I have. Final two I want to show you are, of course, the graham crackers plotting against the marshmallow and the boxing bananas. Now I know these seem rather complex and maybe quite trying things to recreate. However, I will show you some high school student examples I think you can top. Here we find pen and ink drawings made by high school students that incorporate an inanimate object to help tell the story. Now this will suffice in meeting the class's requirements. However, I challenge you to try to create a photograph in the style of Terry Borders that tells a story. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed the work of Terry Borders as much as I have. I find his work to be quite hysterical and enjoyable and uplifting in a rather trying time. Please have fun creating your work of art this week. Now remember, there are two different ways in which you can satisfy the requirements. One of which is to take a drawing and incorporate a found object into your drawing, much like the high school examples that we saw. But the extra challenge would be to be able to create a work of art in the style of Terry Borders using found objects to tell a narrative. I know you can do it. Good luck out there. And please take care of yourself, and if you get a chance to, somebody else as well. From Studio 37, have a great day.